Alright, so as some of you may have seen on Twitter, which if you're not following me, you probably should, I've actually been playing both Cyberpunk 2077's Update 2.0 and the Phantom Liberty expansion early. And while I can't talk about my thoughts on Phantom Liberty or any details pertaining to it in this video, I will have my Phantom Liberty no spoilers review going up on September 20th at 8 a.m. Pacific, which is the review embargo. So this will not only be the first time I have a review out at embargo, it will be the first time I review a game at all. But that is all I can share relating to Phantom Liberty in this video, as I can only share my impressions on Update 2.0 in this video. And I can't share any of my own recorded gameplay. These are just my impressions. What you're going to be seeing on screen is everything that CD Projekt RED have provided publicly. But all the thoughts are my own from my own experience playing Update 2.0, which by the length of this video, I'm sure you can gather that I still have a lot to say about. As for those of you who haven't been keeping up, here is CD Projekt's graphic to show you what is included in the free Update 2.0 coming September 21st and the paid Phantom Liberty expansion that's coming September 26th, a day after my birthday. So there are a lot of changes in Update 2.0, and when they're listed in text form, it doesn't really even get across just how different the game looks and feels with these changes, as they aren't just simple touch-ups or adjustments like we've seen in previous updates. No, the update is completely packed with full redesigns of how the game is both experienced and played. And I've been absolutely loving every moment of it, just to get that out of the way. Everything from the combat, new perk system, vehicle combats, NCPD, everything. There isn't a single thing in this update that I dislike, which is a good place for CDPR to be. Keep in mind, I had over 280 hours and had 100%ed the game prior to playing Update 2.0, and I did all that at the launch of Cyberpunk 2077. So I had a good amount of experience with where the game was lacking, and it also allowed me to experience how the game deals with loading an older save, as my main playthrough save was max level, and I hadn't loaded it up for the last several updates. And when doing so, it was like loading it up the game as usual. There were no crashes or any performance issues, which I know was a cause for concern for many, considering the updated PC system requirements that have made some people think that this game is going to be a lot harder to run. That doesn't seem to be the case here. So I think if you're within those requirements, your game should run just as it was prior to this update, and if you're running path tracing, it might even run a little bit better in some scenarios thanks to DLSS 3.5. But beyond that, it's the same performance-wise, it seems. There's no performance issues. Now, obviously, that doesn't mean much coming from someone like me, as I do have a 4090 and I'm running frame generation, but just know that I've played the game on before this update, and after this update, nothing has really changed. If anything, it feels smoother. One of the things I've found to be the most game-changing has honestly been the redesigned skill and perk trees, as this is, again, with pretty much everything here, done from the ground up. Meaning how you unlock them, the perks available. It made each perk point I spent feel valuable, but also expensive, as since the perk trees are now tiered, requiring you to climb the tree, similar to that of the Borderlands games as an example, I really felt like you had to spec into a playstyle and can't really be a jack of all trades like I had done previously. I also love the idea of having the main perks that branch off to smaller perks that usually boost the general idea of that bigger main perk. Those bigger main perks are the ones that really give you those new mechanics usually, and they're definitely something special. Thankfully though, this does come with the generous addition of the ability to refund perks and respec as you see fit on the fly, as long as you're not in combat. So you don't need to go and buy that thing from the Ripper docs that allows you to refund all your skill points. Can't even remember what it's called, but I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. This is something that I absolutely love, as there are so many times, not just in Cyberpunk, but games in general, where a perk sounds good and ends up either not matching expectations or the way that I want to play the game. Now, they also give you the one opportunity to respec attributes, which is definitely handy, even more so if you're loading up an old save like I was. Now, the perks themselves are just generally a lot more useful or unique than previously. The vast majority of perks, depending on your playstyle, of course, will either give you a huge boost to your current playstyle, not those terrible 2 to 5% incremental increases that are super boring in most games, or you will unlock an entirely new way of play. Mechanics like being able to do the insane hammer slam off your motorcycle, for example. And with added mechanics like the vehicle combat, there are, of course, perks relating to those as well. It's just a much more well-rounded system where a lot of perks combine well with each other, allowing you to find the ultimate build for your character or playstyle. But one of my favorite parts of it is the overhauls to the movement perks, especially the new dashing, as I actually feel like a speed demon now. And yes, the perk also finally gives dashing on PC a specific input key. No more double tapping the movement keys, which was both frustrating when doing it on purpose and also frustrating when accidentally hitting it and falling to your death because of it. And it feels really weird for me to say this as this update is so large, but I think the new dashing perk alone in combination with the dedicated key might actually be the biggest game changer for me when it comes to this update, as I hated the old dashing system, but now you can just sway and lean into your dashes, combine it with other movements, and it just feels really smooth. This all ties into the damage mitigation perks that you can spec into, and at a certain point, you can literally just dance around your enemies while shooting at them. Of course, into the damage mitigation system and the way this game now handles things like healing, using utility and armor, as this system has been completely changed for the better from my experience. You can no longer just spam healing. Kits now heal over time instead of instantly, and you can't spam grenades. This has made me have to consciously think about when it's best to use these items. And it also ties in beautifully with the many perks that have been added in this update, including combat healing perks, which work in different ways based on time, kills, and so on, and damage mitigation, which helps prevent the damage in the first place. It all just makes for a more thoughtful and unique experience. I'm so used to the healing spam in Cyberpunk and BGS games, which does get kind of old. It's not really skillful, it's just mindless healing. So this has been a nice change of pace, making me have to be more aware of my survivability. Again, they really liked meshing systems together with this update, so it also ties in well with the revamped Cyberware and new capacity system. This is one of those systems in the game where I have yet to master it, as there is so much complexity to the many pieces of Cyberware you can slot in and the amount of perks to go with it. But there is so much there, especially with the Edge Runner perk allowing you to go even a bit over capacity with a chance for you to enter a Fury state. Not quite cyber psychosis, but you're getting there, which grants some sizable combat bonuses. They've shown this off and it really does feel as awesome as it looks. A very bold move they made was to completely strip the armor stats from clothing in the game and move it to the Cyberware instead, which makes complete sense. It was just unexpected after they put in all the effort of adding transmog to the game. That being said, you still have the minor stat bonuses you get from clothing, which is pretty cool. And of course, the entire wardrobe system is still there, so you're not going to be losing any of your beautiful outfits or anything. To me, the entire Cyberware and capacity system redesign has made Cyberware feel like it was this side mechanic that was kind of, you set it and forget it, to being a vital part of your build, gameplay, and general survivability. You now have to be smart about what you slot in and tie it in with your build and gameplay style. You'll also likely now have to actually go and adjust and upgrade throughout your playthrough, which I feel like wasn't something you had to do a whole lot beforehand. I think I went to the Ripper Dock 3 or 4 times in my 100% playthrough, and I've already gone back that many times, if not more, after the changes that came with Update 2.0. But of course, to most, those might seem like the most basic changes, as well it's massive, completely changes the game. It's still reworking a system already there. Whereas vehicle combat, car chases, the NCPD overhaul, all tied together with the AI improvements, aren't in the game at all prior to 2.0, unless you count mods. And vehicle combat is one of those things that I felt was going to be super janky, if I'm completely honest. Now, that mainly stemmed from my experience playing the mod and the gameplay that came with it, but I have to say, at least in the third-person mode, the vehicle combat feels like it was meant to be in the game. Getting ran off the road and being shot at by a car or several full of NCPD or one of the many gangs, it just adds a whole new level of chaos to Night City that I've already come to love, and the weapons on vehicles Mad Max style takes it even further. It just feels like they went all out on improving the whole vehicle experience in this game, which is great considering how much time you spend in a vehicle. This also comes alongside them seemingly fixing how a lot of the vehicles handle and even how a lot of them sound with completely new sound design for many of them, which makes them sound more unique, less repetitive, and they also have this more heaviness to them, if that makes any sense whatsoever. In fact, a number of the vehicles I could never drive in the game, as it felt like I was driving on ice, have been completely fixed with this update. I'm not going to lie, there are still a few vehicles that I ran into that feel a little too sensitive on PC for me, as they spin out very easily, but it's nowhere near as bad as it was, and most of the vehicles in this game feel absolutely fantastic now. Now, all of these changes really tie into the AI improvements. Not only do they seem more responsive in combat, making different choices, but it ties in with the vehicle combat, for example, as if you get out of your car, they will stop and do so as well. If you get back into your car, they'll haul back into theirs if they have one. And if you're being hunted by the NCPD and come across random gang members, the gangs will chip into the fight as they don't like the NCPD being in their territory. It just feels and is a lot more dynamic and no longer feels like the cookie cutter static open world experiences, as we saw with some of the updates where they actually added some of those encounters with the NCPD chasing people. They felt very scripted. That's not the case anymore. All of these situations are very dynamic as the NCPD are freely roaming the world, and the NCPD system overall is really great as well, because at the lower levels it's not this kind of annoyance to deal with where it ruins the free roam, something I was honestly afraid of as I hate the police system in GTA, but it's tiered and gets more intense with every level, with higher tiered NCPD and vehicles, roadblocks being set up, hunting patrols, and all leading up to the eventual arrival of MagSack, which fly in and drop out of their AV just as they do in the prologue mission and in Edge Runners. It's an intimidating entrance to say the least, and I think my first encounter with them lasted a whole 15 seconds. That being said, it took a lot of chaos to get them to spawn in, so I don't think you're going to accidentally run over a few people and they're going to instantly ruin the chaos. It's a really cool system. I love how you can hear all the dispatch radio chatter about the chaos you're ensuing, and this really is the fully fledged experience some people have been begging for since launch. So I don't think the NCPD are going to disappoint. And one of the things I really appreciated in this update is that they did yet again another pass on improving the quality of life of the UI and UX in this game with many, many improvements. This is seen really throughout all the HUD, the mission menu, the perk tree, obviously, the inventory menu, the phone menu, crafting, and even fast travel stations. One very funny fix they did, I almost don't even want to spoil here in this video until the full release, but know that they finally fixed something people have been dunking on since launch. Everything is just more well polished, has improved filters, more details such as greatly improved stats display in the inventory menu, and even changes to the naming scheme for loot. Loot is now named based on tiers rather than common, uncommon, rare, and so on, making it easier to know what's what at a glance, especially if you're newer to the game. I'd imagine it would also be easier for people that are colorblind. It's just a lot easier to navigate through the many menus in this game after Update 2.0, which is something I especially appreciate after playing Starfield, a game with very, very frustrating UI and UX. This game has basically resolved all of the major issues people had with the UI in this game. And they even took it a step further and went after things that people didn't even have issues, and they just improved those as well. The cherry on top of all of this is the newly added radio stations, including the community-driven Growl FM with Sasha Grey as the radio host. It just adds that extra level of freshness to playing the game again, allowing you to experience new music while you're experiencing this new content. It feels like just about everything has been touched on or completely redone for this update, and I am quite liking the tracks included so far. Then there is DLSS 3.5 for NVIDIA GPUs that can actually run it. So basically the 40 series, which introduces something called ray reconstruction of the game. And when I say NVIDIA's comparison video doesn't really do it justice, I mean it really doesn't. DLSS 3.5 has dramatically changed how the game looks, in my opinion. It is absolutely breathtaking to look at, and I cannot wait to be able to share it with you myself, as it genuinely at times feels like a remaster of the game. I've had moments that are very rare for me in gaming at this point, where I just stand there and am awestruck at the graphics. There are a few cases where DLSS 3.5 doesn't seem to help much, especially during the daylight, but the cases where it does, it looks so good. Now, I will note that there is some noticeable amount of ghosting with it enabled. I'm not sure if this is a regression in terms of DLSS in general, but the ghosting isn't bad enough to where it makes me want to disable it. That might also be an issue that will be resolved before the update is officially released, but since it was really my only issue with DLSS 3.5, I figured it wouldn't hurt to mention. With all of these redesigns and overhauls and how much they change the game and greatly improve the experience, I would definitely suggest playing through the game again once this update is released on the 21st. It's just such a solid update that I think was well worth the wait, and I'm glad it's coming just before Phantom Liberty to give people time to replay it before jumping into the expansion. This really is, in my opinion, the big update that a lot of people have been waiting for before jumping into the game, whether for the first time or not, and I think a lot of you will find it worth the wait. Of course, it is still a large open world game, so expect some goofy bugs, but beyond that, I hope you all enjoy the launch of this update later this week. It's just a few more days. As a reminder, my Phantom Liberty No Spoilers review will be releasing September 20th at 8 a.m. Pacific time, and I'll have a video showcasing Update 2.0 when it releases on the 21st, as I'll then be able to share my own recorded 2.0 gameplay, where you'll be able to get a quick and visual demo on how all of this actually looks, works, and feels. And all of this deserves a huge thanks to the amazing team at CD Projekt RED and GOG for not only delivering a solid update, but giving me this opportunity, especially given that this is coming off of me taking a very long break here on YouTube. I know how special these launches are, so I look forward to covering it and also seeing all of your reactions come release. If there are any questions you'd like me to answer about Update 2.0 that you feel I didn't answer in this video, be sure to leave them down in the comments and I'll try to answer the ones I'm allowed to in an upcoming video before the official release. You can also find my most recent video on screen, but that's it for this video. Thanks as always for watching, and until next time, this is Apoqsi, signing off.